Wish you were one of those influencers with raving fans who binge on your every word, consume all your content, buy everything you have to sell, and demand even more? Then stay tuned while Authority Magazine columnist and BuzzFeed contributor Tracy Hazard shares strategies, tips, and tactics from top videocasters, podcasters, authors, and social influencers on creating that bingeable factor. Now, let's join Tracy as she explores how to rise above all the digital noise with the Binge Factor.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Binge Factor. I'm Tracy Hazard and I have Barry Shore here today. And this is going to be a high energy, high excitement, full of joy and fun because he is the author of The Joy of Living, How to Slay Stress and Be Happy. He also sent me a care package with all kinds of things in there, and you'll hear him talking about it. He's got his Keep Smiling cards. Did I tell you today how much I appreciate you? My audience, I appreciate you. Be the first. Inspiring messages. Don't complain, don't blame. And you're going to find him to be the king of acronyms as we go forward. And happy by choice is very certainly the absolute description of Barry Shore. You're going to have so much fun listening to him today. He is known as the ambassador of joy. Barry Shore is a mental wellness activist, philanthropist, multi-patent holding entrepreneur, speaker, author, podcaster, and former quadriplegic who is now swimming around the world. After a rare disease paralyzed Barry from the neck down, he created the Joy of Living community, the Keep Smiling movement that has reached multiple celebrities and distributed millions of Keep Smiling cards worldwide, and a philanthropic platform featured in Oprah's magazine. Barry's podcast, The Joy of Living, is in the top 2% of all podcasts and is heard globally by hundreds of thousands. His latest book, The Joy of Living, How to Slay Stress and Be Happy, is available on Amazon, Apple Books, and at barryshore.com. So I am so excited to have Barry here. He reached out to me. He's been in my community for a while. We've known each other from the Entrepreneurial and Speaking Network for quite some time. And he reached out to me and had just commented back. He listened to an interview and wanted to have one of my guests as his guest. And he just reached out and asked for the introduction. So of course I made it. And this is such a lesson. If you don't reach out, if you don't connect, how do you get invited on my show, right? He reminded me that I hadn't had him on my show yet, and he didn't have to say anything. He didn't ask for the interview. I just offered because we reconnected and because he showed me he was listening and eagerly needed something from me that was super simple and easy for me to give, an introduction. So lesson to you all, you got to go out there and ask. So Barry is full of lesson after lesson after lesson today. You might want to come back to the blog post for this episode so you can jot down some of those wonderful acronyms and definitions he gives of his words, his redefinement of the English language, which I absolutely love. You're going to have so much fun. So here's Barry Shore. Barry, I'm so glad we're making this happen. It's about time two of us sat down and had a conversation in greater depth.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. Now, Tracy, how can I make the categorical statement that all the thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that will be watching and listening to this are all good-looking, like you? Because by definition, if they tune in to listen to the Binge Factor, it means they're always looking for and finding the good in life. Looking for and finding the good. That's a good-looking person, and I am humbled and honored to be here with you today.
Oh, I love Barry. This is why I was so excited to have you on the show, because I knew your energy was going to be all there. It comes across in every second of your show. And that is just such a tremendous amount of fun. And I think that, it's too often we get into this, like, are we going to really have a matched guest to us? And I knew we were going to be matched.
Yeah. And by the way, we talk a lot about fun on my podcast and right now, because I love using the 4-letter FU word. What? Barry Shore does the 4-letter FU? Yeah, I do it for the shock value and it's fun. But the 4-letter FU word that I love is fun. FU capital N, capital N. Now, I'm sure there are purists in the audience who are saying, hey, Barry Shore, fun's only spelled with 3 letters. Not in our world, Tracy, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. Fun is spelled F-U, capital N, capital N. So after the show, when you see your family and your friends, you have a twinkle in your eye and a smile on your face. You want to point your finger at them and say, F-U, everybody. Remember to add right away, capital N, capital N. So where'd you get that? So, well, I listened to Tracy on the Binge Factor. She had on this crazy guy who wants to teach the world to F you, capital N, capital N, and that will start a conversation. What was that all about? Well, now you're going to hear more.
This is something that I see so often. I see a lot of podcasters who have a show and, authors who have a book. And yours is the joy of living. And there is no question there is joy with all the 3 capital letters there that you use in your life. And you are the embodiment of that in everything you do. How do you keep that consistency through everything?
So this is a wonderful issue that people oftentimes ask me. I thank God I'm blessed now to go back and do real in-person seminars. I just did one recently. We had 1,176 people. Not a mask in the audience, lots of hugs and all kinds of stuff. It was just wonderful. And we're talking about Barry Shore's story, which we'll mention in just a moment. And I'm talking about SMILE, which stands for seeing miracles in life every day. And people are raising their hands saying, hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours. I haven't seen any miracles. And I asked them, are you here? Can you hear? Can you stand still? I can't do that. Can you walk? I can barely do that. Do you have water to drink? Do you have food to eat? Do you have a place to sleep? Do you have family or friends? Every single one of those is a miracle, Tracy. And what's the proof? Simplest proof. 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. By definition, if you're watching this or you're listening to it, you're alive. You have an obligation to live life to the full. So there is no such thing as, gee, do you ever have a bad day, Barry? Here's the answer. Since the age of 13, no. Have I had difficult hours in the day? Hello, human being. But if I'm not going to let one incident ruin a whole day of being alive, that just doesn't work. So the ability, that's why I wrote the book. The book is not just informational, it's transformational, because that's what people want. 11 strategies for learning how to live in joy daily, no matter the circumstances. And joy, so it's called The Joy of Living, and it's available at no cost. Tracy will tell you how to do that. No cost whatsoever. It sells for $14.95 on Amazon. You get it as an ebook for free. Not free, no cost. And it's all about the strategies to live in joy daily, no matter the circumstances. And I've been through circumstances.
Well, and I think that this is such an important thing that we're making a choice to live in joy. We're making a choice. And I keep trying to reinforce this with my daughters, because I think the earlier they learn this, the better off they're going to be. That you can have, I have a 13-year-old. You can have a bad hair day, right? You can have a bad hair day, right? You can let it get to you that it is sticking up and not looking right this morning. And you can let that affect your entire day. Or you could choose to just let that go and move on, right? Stick it up in a ponytail and move on. And that's the 13-year-old issues, right? Like there's some of them, but they do let it take them down, right? And we have to teach them strategies to not.
Outstanding. I'm so glad. I urge you to share this with your daughter. The 6 most important words that you can internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Yes. Choice, how you choose to respond in any given situation. Hey, bad hair day for a 13-year-old girl, that's a tough one. I agree. But by the same token, once you start looking and saying, I can't do anything with it, and you start laughing, okay, so you had a few minutes, it was tough. You think, something? I choose not to have a mood. Because you know what the word mood is, Tracy? It's such an interesting one. Mood spelled backwards is what?
Oh, doom.
Mood, doom.
Yeah.
Hello, are you going to let your mood cause you doom in your life? Duh. That just doesn't compute. Let me tell people a story, quick story, because you asked about how do you do this on a consistent basis. Well, imagine the following, if you can. standing up in the morning, hale and hearty, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. And that evening, being in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed, quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down. Nothing moves. I could only communicate by blinking my eyes. And imagine this, it was not for an automobile accident. It was not a spinal injury. It was a rare disease, which I never heard of the day before, that caused me paralysis. 144 days in the hospital. I was in a hospital bed in my own home for 2 years. I couldn't turn over by myself. I was in a wheelchair for 4 years. I had braces on both my legs, my hips to my ankles, and that was progress. Thank God today I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking one. So I'm a triped, not a biped. But I can't walk up a stair by myself. I can't walk up a curb by myself. I have help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you hear my voice. Positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. It's all because of one word, Tracy. One word. Smile. Smile. Yes, because SMILE is an acronym that stands for Seeing Miracles in Life Every Day. Seeing miracles in life every day. But I'll tell you quickly, you like this. My 8-year-old niece comes over to me a few weeks ago and she says, Uncle Barry, can we spell SMILE, S-M-I-E-L? I thought about smile sounds the same. Why not? I asked her, how come? She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life. Out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. But
wow, profound.
Yeah, but what was she doing? She was creating the kind of world she wants to live in. Now, create stands for causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. Rethinking is the key. Like we talked about, choice, not chance, determines your destiny. I teach an entire course and done it for, thank God, a couple of decades, tens of thousands of people, what we call shift perspective. Now, I can tell you, Tracy, out of tens of thousands of people, 97.2% of everybody, they drop the F in shift and the other stuff happens.
Yeah,
you're going to be
that's
effing
so true.
careful with your F's, right?
Yeah.
Shift perspective. So my latest book, which is coming out in just about 68 days, is called Oh Shift.
And it may be out by the time this podcast or just after this podcast airs.
Great.
So you're going to want to check that out.
Okay, so this is great. So it's called Oh Shift. The ability to shift perspective and recognize these beautiful aspects of life every single day.
This is what I'm interested to know. So, I mean, obviously, your transformation and your energy has been going on before you started podcasting here. So let's get a little bit to the origin story of what made you start a podcast and how that got going. And in that process, I want to ask you on the flip side of that, how it shifted your perspective on how you do things. So let's start with the story about how it got started.
Well, I'm so happy that you asked because it has shifted my perspective. So let me tell you a very quick story. Let me see. I'm 74 now chronologically. When I was 18, so that's a lot of years ago. By the way, I'm sure that your listening audience mostly is under the age of 35. So
well, I'm not so sure. You'd be surprised.
So 18, I was 18, so that's what, almost 60, let's plus minus 55 years ago, right? Long time. I had a radio show.
Awesome.
Underground. I grew up in a place called Brookline, Massachusetts, right next to Boston. And there was underground radio. Literally, it was underground because it was in the basement. That's right. Radio shows were in those days. And I did a show called Naked Radio.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to have to ask my father-in-law because he would have been in Boston at that time and he would have been at Berkeley School of Music. So I guarantee you he was probably listening.
Excuse me. I went to Berkeley.
Oh, did you? That would be so crazy.
I played the licorice stick, the clarinet.
Oh, well, Peter Hazard, Tom's dad, was there at the same time. So it could have happened. You guys might have known each other.
I was in the second year class of Berkeley. They had just opened. Yeah, wow. We'll
have to connect you two and find out.
This is very fun.
But you were doing naked radio. I love that.
I was doing naked radio, and one of the things I did on naked radio, and people will love this now, but I said, I'm broadcasting. I want everybody to know that I am completely naked. I took off all my clothes, and it's radio. You got to hear this, right? So, and I'm talking about doing radio and doing things while I'm naked in the studio and such. And you got to remember, this is Boston in the whatever it was, 1960 something.
Yeah.
People called to complain, and some people called
They
the
can't even
police.
see you and they're calling to complain.
They called the police. We had knocks on the door. So the studio engineer got to the, now Boston has Irish cops. And so you get two big Irish cops. They say, wait, we got a complaint that some guy is naked here and he's broadcasting on radio. And I'm fully clothed, of course. They come in, I say, well, it's called naked. And they started laughing. They said, like anybody would even call about it.
That's so funny. I love it.
I had my taste of and I understood what the power of even a small radio station.
Well, the power of that intimacy between you and the audience where they really believed it, right?
Yes. So now fast forward decades and, life is going on, all kinds of wonderful things. Thank God I've done very well in business and in my life. And I've been through stuff like, you read on my website, which will be posted by Tracy, and you read on my website, things I've gone through and done and such. It's kind of interesting and people love it. And then of course with the paralysis and such. And I recognize that this process, the internet, which I have been involved with since 1970, 71, I built something on the internet, 18 months, I sold it for many millions of dollars. And then I built another thing, and then everything imploded. So we lost millions of dollars, but it didn't matter. So it was great for stories, right? And I said, I heard about podcasting. Now, in the early days, let's go back 5, 6, 7 years, it was a little complicated how you do it and such. Today, I don't know why everybody doesn't have one, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But there are millions of them now. But even 5 years ago, I was able to get involved. And by the way, Podetize and Tracy, huge help, Binge Factor, bing, 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 huge help. Everybody should be involved with Podetize and Binge Factor. Okay. I started to do it because I love speaking with people. And again, it's the idea of one-on-one. This show, what we're doing right now in the Binge Factor, this is not about Barry Shore, nice guy that he is, or even Tracy, wonderful, beautiful woman that she is. It's about you. You, the person listening, you. It's about you becoming the best you possible and therefore making a better world. And you being happier, healthier, and wealthier. And if you follow what we're talking about, you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. So I began podcasting and I loved it.
I can't imagine you wouldn't love it. Like, that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's like, that's a duck to water, like, no question about it. Right.
And it was a great shift in the sense that it's radio, it's the internet, and there's no limit. Hello.
Yeah.
My audience, thank God right now, I have over 300,000 people listen every week. I have over 4 million downloads. And I'm broadcasting the energy of my life and joy and the ability for people to live in joy daily around the world. People from Pakistan, Bangladesh, from China, the United States, South America, everywhere in the world. That is mind, heart expanding. There's never been anything like this. When radio first started, this was sort of the idea, but you couldn't do it because, you had no internet.
Right.
But this was the idea. You could broadcast. So there were people, remember the old days, they had ham radio.
I do remember ham radios.
Yeah. And I had a friend who had a 30-foot tower in his backyard. And he was a ham radio operator, and he would listen to people from Kyrgyzstan and just bizarre, interesting, wonderful places around the world.
Yeah.
But this is today. It's right now.
This is what I think is that people do underestimate, and I can hear it in your show. So I know it's not the case for you, is that it doesn't matter whether you have 1 listener or 300,000 listeners.
Right.
You're going to show up that same way. And so even though we're recording this right now and there actually are no live listeners, it doesn't matter. Both of us feel them, even though we're future pacing that they're going to be there. Right.
Right.
And that's a big difference. Like I watched this in the pandemic and it shocked me. There would be these, late night television guys who be in their house complaining about how hard this was without a live audience. And I'm thinking to myself you're not thinking about this the right way. you're not shifting your perspective the right way, because
Shift.
imagine them, feel them, and you're going to be
Yes.
fine there, right? It's just, it's
Oh,
a different mindset.
everything that Tracy says is correct. You hear what you just said? It's mindset. And it's truly critical to hear her words, because when I started my podcasts, I didn't have hundreds of thousands of people. I didn't know if there were 2 people listening, and it didn't matter, like she just said, because I did understand something. And that is that when you make this recording, unlike radio, you make this recording, people can listen to this a decade from now, 2 decades, 5 decades, century from now. In other words, this is like a time machine that who knows what can happen, because what you're doing is you're giving over your very essence and sharing it. Now, I'm going to tell you I love acronyms. I love words. SHARE stands for spreading happiness and rejuvenating energy. That's what we're doing right now. We're not doing a podcast. We are sharing our energy, Tracy and Barry and you together. And I just ask you to do one thing. Share this with 5 people that you know. I didn't say 50, 100, 1,000, because that's just beyond human understanding. 5 people. Just say, I want you to listen to this, because this guy's telling everybody to F you. Capital N, capital N. You got to add those things.
That's right. Well, I want to do your binge factor right now, because you just hit on it right there. That, there are so many, I'm going to call them like talk style interview shows, and they follow similar formats. And I don't think there's a lot different in, I'm going to call it, structure to your show than other shows. You have a lot more preamble at the beginning, which I do like. You have a lot more setup. And so from a technical perspective, I love how you set up your interview before you bring them in. It's really got a fun flow to it there. So that's just personally, I admire that. But the real thing about it is that the energy that is coming across of your show to the guest, to the audience, is consistent. And what I really know, I just know it without, even if I hadn't met you in person, which we have, but if I hadn't have, I would know that you were the same person on air on the show that you are live and in person. And that is something that gets rewarded. This is how you get binge listeners. This is your binge factor, is that continuity and energy translates into everything you do.
That's life.
That's right. That's how you approach
That's what all the
right?
people say, right? Because life stands, again, we love words. I work with what we call the 3 fundamentals of life. Number 1, your life has purpose. If you lead a purpose-driven life, number 2 happens. In this case, a good number 2. You go mad. MAD is a great acronym that stands for make a difference, like Tracy and Tom, her husband, and Podetize, what they do, and the binge factor. So you live a life of purpose, you go mad, you make a difference. And the third thing is to unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms, like smile. By the way, right now, this is being carried over the internet, right? So if you ask anybody, what does www stand for? Invariably, they'll say it has to do with the internet. Now, factually speaking, they're correct. But in our world, Tracy, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, www stands for what a wonderful world. And what is a word,
that.
but it's also that great song, right, by Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, which, by the way, didn't just go viral and touch tens of millions or hundreds of millions, but billions of people around the planet. They hear what a wonderful world. What do you do right away?
And it went
smile.
old school way, right?
Yes, exactly.
It didn't go viral new school way. So I love it.
So
I know.
this is what we're doing right now. It doesn't matter if it's one person. It's all about you. It's about you finding value and becoming the best you possible, living life to the full. Life stands for living inspirationally for eternity. That's what life's about, right?
Well, and this is going to live on, right? It's going to live on beyond us. And I think that's something really special. Like I do think Tom has a grandfather who was in the Seabees in World War II, and he documented Tinian Island, and he has all these photographs and all these things that we keep saying, Tom keeps saying he's going to get around to putting them and getting them to a museum, because they all need to be scanned because they're deteriorating over time.
What
And so
year were they?
I don't know exactly when he was there, but they were building the air base and stuff at that time. So anyway, he's got all these amazing documentation of all this, and it needs to get out there. And it's one of those things where the idea that he's documented something that's going to live beyond him, and that it's actually at the next generation before it's even moving on, like, it took a lot of effort. He had to take those, save them. We don't have to work that hard to get that out there now. We don't have to work that hard to share our voices with our great grandchildren. They're going to have so much recordings of me, they might be sick of me someday, right? But they're there. And I think that
Yes.
that's amazing. Eternity live on. What needs to survive will survive.
Well, this, again, those of you who've been listening to Tracy for a while understand that her vibe is so beautiful and bountiful, and that's why you tune in consciously and conscientiously. We talk about love. Love is a 4-letter word. What is love? Living on vibrant energy, living on the vibrational plane. When you do that, then what happens is you're able to connect with other people. You become a channel of goodness. That's what the binge factor is really about. That's what podcasting is about. It's not so much, well, I'm smart, you're smart, let's bring our smarts to people. Very nice, by the way. Informational stuff is great. People really want transformation. Information is so readily available today on the internet that it's almost information overload.
Yeah, it so is. It so is.
People want transformation.
Transformation, our job as guides, as people bringing information, is not to be experts. It's to be caring. Like, that's how I see it. Is it's my job to be benevolently caring for you enough that I'm willing to not sell you because it's not in your best interest, as much as I am, of course, to sell you if it is in your best interest. That's the way I'd like to operate, because I think that the one thing that does come across is that podcasting, being a freely distributed media type, makes it easier to show care, because obviously if I'm taking the time and working at that, just like you're working really hard with your more than hour-long shows, you're putting a lot of effort and time into them. That's a lot of care to that audience that they didn't have to pay for. So instantly they're already in a place of receiving something beautiful, and they're naturally ready to go. When you say share it with 5 people, they're like, I want to give back. I just got something for an hour. I want to give back. 5 people, that's nothing.
She's so wonderful.
I'm trying to sell you as it is. Well, let's talk a little bit about.
The good news is she's going to post my website. So when you go to the website, you're going to see a number of things there about sharing a smile through email. It's all no cost to you. Just do it. Spread the joy. That's really what this is about. Because when you do that, you're helping you. You see, you may be touching your family and your friends and other people, but really the closest, most important relationship you have is with yourself. And if you can become that cog, that channel of goodness, that child of God, it becomes a way to touch everybody in the world. You're creating what we call a tsunami of goodness, an ecosystem of good, because it's one person touching another, and that's what this podcast process is all about. I mean, it's such a phenomenon that people today, I mean, it's so basic. It exists, of course. You have radio, you have television, you have podcasting, it rolls off the tongue. It didn't even exist 10 years ago.
That's right. I know. I love it. And, one of the things is that, so like Barry and I, we've known each other a few years now. And, since we every so often I'll get a message from you, and I love it. I love that you take the time to reach out, because there's a lot of audience that doesn't. And I don't need it. Like, it's not something as a podcast. There are podcasters who need the actual physical feedback engagement. I don't need that. I'm good. I know that I put it out there and somebody's doing something with it, and I'm good with that knowledge. But every so often you send me this message and go, I love an interview. I love a connection to that person that you interviewed, or this is great. Thank you. And you just said these nice little short, sweet things. And it makes me feel so good, Barry, because I value your view on the world. And so if I'm doing something that's giving you something back, then that, it means even something. So just thinking about that in the world, it's like, there's a lot of good podcasters out there. And if they've helped you, make sure you just do something, pay it forward for them, refer them to a listener, that say thanks. Like that's all it takes, right? Because it's really great to feel that way on the other side of it. And I didn't realize it because, like I said, I didn't think I needed it. But every so often you give it to me and it's just like perfectly timed.
It's so wonderful she's saying this. If I may, wonderful Tracy, and I think you'll let me, I'd like to share a couple of practical tips and tools
Please.
that people can use immediately in their life. One of them is what I call practicing gratitude. Now, I'm sure all the many thousands of people listening will say, well, of course I practice gratitude, Barry Shore. You know, I love life. I love people. That's why I listen to Tracy. But I'm just going to share with you an idea. What's the best way I have found, and again, over decades and been through stuff, you know, being paralyzed for years. Hello, you get a lot of time to think and understand more about life. Practicing gratitude involves the following. Please use the two most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day from now and the rest of your life. Now, what are the two most powerful words in the English language? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank stands for to harmonize and network kindness. To harmonize and network kindness. The Dalai Lama has been quoted as saying, I read in his writings, be kind whenever possible. And he has with a twinkle in his eye, it's always possible. So imagine you go into your coffee shop, you order a fancy latte, you sit down and somebody brings it to you. You say thank you. You go to the coffee shop, you order a fancy latte, a few minutes go by, nobody brings it, you go to the counter, they say, oh, I'm sorry, we forgot, we're busy, we'll bring it to you. Sit down, another minute goes by, somebody still brings it to you, say, thank you. You're walking out of the coffee shop, it's raining out, somebody holds the door open for you. You say, thank you. You're walking out of the coffee shop, it's raining, and somebody slams the door on you. You say, oh, shift. Thank you.
That's right.
You're in traffic, you're late for an appointment, somebody cuts you off, you say, thank you. You get up in the middle of the night and you stub your toe and it hurts. You say, thank you. To harmonize and network kindness. Say thank you 3 times consciously and conscientiously every single day from now for the rest of your life. Yeah, we all say thank you 20 times a day, but just mouthing it consciously and conscientiously, you'll find that you'll have a shift in your perspective. Remember to keep the F in
Absolutely.
shift.
You got to keep that F out of there. Yeah. Yeah. You got to keep that F in there, rather, I should say. So,
Shift.
Yeah. I actually, so this is something that I learned from my grandmother. My grandmother, and I think it kind of horrified her kids a little bit, like my mom and her sisters, maybe a little bit, that she could talk to anyone. She knew their whole story. She was, she knew what everybody was up to. But she was so extremely grateful to everybody for all the things that they did. And she rewarded them with her attention. And I think that that's something that we don't do enough of. We don't take the time to really listen to somebody else, to understand what's going on with them, to do that. And she did. And I think that that's something that is a powerful, you could harness it for business and use it for networking, but I think it's just a powerful, energetic place to live.
I'm so honored and happy that you just shared that. Thank you.
And for me, and I'm just curious about this for you, because I'm going to throw out my quick 3 questions because I'd rather just chat with you about all the other things. You don't need tactic stuff here. Barry's a pro. Listen to his show. You'll get those tactics.
Right.
They're obvious there. But the return on investment for me is for this podcast. There's business that comes from it. There's all that other stuff. I don't ever look at that. It's that as long as I'm doing this with you right now, enjoying our time together, getting something valuable back that I know I'm going to quote to somebody else, like it's going to happen. I'm going to share this with somebody. Some wisdom piece that you gave me is going to be just perfectly timed for me to motivate someone next week who's on my calendar. I just know it. But as long as that's there, then there is no question that this podcast is worth it, my time, energy, and money. Right? Like it's no question. But What is it for you that you found was the best return on investment for you personally?
For me personally, it's the ability to broadcast the message, my mission. I'm 74 chronologically, and I know that every human being who's over the age of 20, so your daughter's not there yet, but she will be.
One of my
has-
daughters is, so we're good.
Okay. Everybody over the age of 20 has 4 ages that they live with at the same time. You have your chronological age, you have your metabolic age. I am 46 metabolically because I now swim 2 miles a day, 6 days a week.
Good for
And
you.
there's a whole story with me swimming, but leave it aside for the moment. And I've been doing this for 14 years. I have over 8,852 miles under my belt, more than a third of the way around the world. And my goals are somewhere around the world. Okay. So metabolically, I'm 46. Mental acuity, I'm 28. Hello. We do podcasting. I work with people building websites. I work with people from 22 to 30. I'm 28. And my SOW is 8. So when people scratching at SOW, I said, what do you think? My sense of wonder. I'm an 8-year-old. And if you can keep that between 6 and 9, don't get into double digits. Between 6 and 9,
Please
your sense
don't.
of wonder, right? Then you can be as creative in the world as you possibly can be, whether you're 74, 104, or 24. That's the key, is your
So
SOW.
I have an 8-year-old, and you're right about it. It's like, it is the perfect age. She asks the most interesting questions, right? It is,
Yes.
it really is a great age.
Because they're
for
always
that.
looking and asking, what about this? What's this about? Because it's new. It's all
Right.
when you lose your marvels, then something's wrong. Don't lose your marvels. I urge people when I do my seminars now, again, 1,176 people, and God willing, it will have more next time. I urge people to do something when we have a break. I urge people, don't go to you have to go to the bathroom, do that. Go outside and skip. I don't care if you skip for 10 yards. Just go outside and skip. Can you imagine? I've seen hundreds of people.
8-year-olds cannot stand still, so we're still modeling them, right?
Yes. Skip. Now I'm going to share with you the last thing that's going to rock your world, everybody, because you asked me about what is happening for you, to get the mission out there. What is the mission? To live in joy daily, no matter the circumstance. Remember, joy stands for journey of you. That's what joy is. And how do I urge people to do that? With the following: learn to love dog poop. Did Barry Shore just said dog poop?
You just said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Learn to love dog poop. Remember, open up into secrets of everyday words and terms. Nothing more regular than dog poop, right? Dog poop is a great acronym that stands for doing of good, power of one person. Doing of good, the power of one person. Tracy, I've seen it, I've heard it. People don't really believe that they can make a difference. An individual.
No, they don't believe it, right? I think that's a very common thing that I'm hearing again and again, that they don't believe that they can do, that they make a difference.
But people, my mission is to encourage and inform and transform people to understand you make a difference when you become the best you possible. Power of one person, that's poop. Imagine one person reaching out to another, and pretty soon we create a tsunami of goodness in the world. Nothing can stand in the way. There's no wall, there's no mountain, there's nothing that can stand in the way of the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant energy of people who are empowered and encouraged and enlightened and enthusiastic with joy.
I love that. I love that. The journey of you. I think that, I just think that it's so important that we look at everything that we do, including this podcasting journey, if that's what you're on, right?
Right.
It's like, you have to look at it as it's not all external. It's internal too.
Right. The internal energy creates something so powerful that if you really knew what you had, you would never use a complaining word. You'd never be blaming. Matter of fact, it's one of the strategies in the book, The Joy of Living. Yours available at no cost. One of the strategies is don't complain, don't blame.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, not only does it not benefit you, it corrodes. So why do it?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, people ask me how I work with my husband and partner all the time. And one of the things that he's so amazing at is never blaming. Like it's just something that it's not a part of who he is.
Right.
It just isn't who he is. And to him, it's, well, because he's, he's a creative person at heart. He's an industrial designer by trade. So like there's always a solution to something. So if it's broken, if it's not working, why blame someone? It's an opportunity to fix it. It's an opportunity to make the world better, right? That's how he looks at the world. And that in and of itself, just being around that is an amazing thing, which is, why
Well,
we've been married
that is
over 30 years.
yeah, that's full Tom. The
Yeah,
ability
isn't
to
it?
understand the big O is really opportunity. And by the way, that's the essence of business. Let's talk about monetization and stuff for just a little bit. I want everybody to understand that I am a business person. I love business. I think it's one of the highest callings in the world, if not the highest. Business. By the way, you can say, what about doctors and such? Yeah, well, they run a business. It's all business.
They may not see it that way, but they do.
Oh boy, do they. So what's a business? Spelled business, right? Notice something amazing. The U comes before the I. The essence of business is to recognize service, goods that are beneficial to the other person. When you can give benefit to someone else or many people, the millions of people, the you comes before the I. Your I will be filled. You'll be attracting results. You don't have to run after them. That's the genius of good business. That's what I have found with podcasting, by the way. I get flooded with benefits. You hear me? Flooded. People saying, first of all, I love what you do. Thank you very much. Also, some people saying, hey, I don't like what you do. I'd like you to do this. I love it also. But in terms of monetization, thank God I'm in over six figures with a podcast. It wasn't always first year or two. Who cared? But it's because of books that are going out. It's because people love my cause, people joining the Joy of Living community, which I urge everybody to do. We want millions of people. I built it in such a way that the barrier to entry is virtually zero. It's $10 a month, but you get me plus all of my content and all the things that I do on an ongoing basis to create more joy, happiness, peace, and love, because nobody has to live in a doom world, in a mood world, and in a complaining, blaming, where you can live in joy, happiness, peace, and love every single day.
I think this is so critically important that you're saying this at this juncture, because it's too easy in the podcasting world for someone to dive into controversy, contrarianism, like just this idea of being that kind of personality, that's what it takes to go viral and that's what it takes to have a successful show. And that's really not true, because I do see just as many shows that are extremely positive, that are making transformational differences in the world, like yours, that have more power at the end of the day, more lasting power.
Yes, because goodness works. Remember, dog poop. Learn to love dog poop. Doing of good. Power of one person. You have it. It's to use an analogy, everybody knows what a chiropractor is, right? If you're feeling physically out of sorts a little bit, you go to a chiropractor, he or she goes, and now you're aligned and you feel like you can carry yourself easily, right? So what I urge people to do is become your own spiritual chiropractor. What does that mean? You want to align your thoughts in good, your speech in good, your deeds in good. You want to align your thoughts, your words, and your deeds in goodness. And now you're spiritually aligned. As Tracy said, it comes from the inside out. And now you're living in flow. Then when you're in flow, and I think
that's exactly the thing, is that I think that that idea of being controversial all the time is not sustainable. It's just not. It's not who you are, who you want to be. It's against the natural order of things. And it just doesn't work, and you cannot sustain that for long.
Yeah, if you want to be corrosive, do that, but that's not going to help you physically, mentally, or spiritually, which is the ultimate PMS, by the way, physically, mentally, spiritually. So even with women,
The good
but
PMS.
if you want to open up the twin channels of giving and receiving and experience greater intimacy than you've known in years, so you can literally reignite the electric touch, and you want to live with love and hope and gift and time and pray and play and swim.
And swim too. It's making me think about, you're mentioning your swimming as Mr. Rogers, who I grew up with. I don't know about,
Right.
but he was a consummate swimmer, and it's what he swore kept him in shape mentally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. He swore by that
Yes.
was part of his power. So good for you for getting that in too.
Thank you. It's the story of how it came about. Again, you can read it on my website and such, which Tracy will give you. But for me, it totally transformative, because walking, I still can't do it very well. And gravity, everybody knows what gravity is. And if you're in a situation like mine, it's too easy to fall. And I've fallen many, many times over the years. When you're in the water, you don't even think about it, because you're buoyant. You don't even fall. If you fall down in the water, you splash. So it's a whole different mindset. Again, talking about mindset. Mindset is so fundamental. You need mindset of success. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. That's the mindset. And then you got to learn how to say, oh, shift, when stuff happens. When things happen to you or for you or with you that are untoward, and you may not love them at the moment. I was paralyzed overnight. Gee, when I have checked that off in a menu box? No. But now that I have it, what do? Oh, shift. Or maybe you have a client that just came in and said, by the way, I do need what you have, and here's a $50,000 PO with good margin. Oh, shift. In other words, it happens on both. But the ability to recognize, oh, shift in your life, and how you incorporate that into your very being. And I have a great acronym for it. We won't have to do it right now, but it's by the way, I just published, this is very interesting. I just published, 10 days ago. Well, whenever this comes out, by the time you hear this,
It will be a little while, but yeah.
So we just published my first acronyms book, and it has 100+ acronyms for, again, the joy vocabulary, taking words and finding the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant essence of them. And I'll tell you a personal story. Wonderful Tracy, I'm happy to tell you this. I am the first person in history to have 3 books up on the Jumbotron in Times Square in New York on the same day.
How fun.
In December of 2022, my book, The Joy of Living, was up on the Jumbotron. And right after that, the acronyms book was up there. And right after that, a book called Ultimate Speakers Competition or something. And I'm a featured story in the book. So I had 3 books on the Jumbotron in Times Square in December.
That's
First
awesome.
time in history.
I bet there's a lot of gifts under the tree on that one.
Yeah. Wow. So
yeah, that's how exciting that is. Well, before we end today, and I hate to end because I'm having so much fun, but
F you, Tracy.
Yeah,
F
that's
you.
right. Fun.
Capital N, capital N.
With a double N. Yeah. And so I want to say that you were talking a little bit about the things that people let them hold them back, right? That sort of things that are just keeping us in fear and bound to letting chance happen instead of choice happen. What do you say to those podcasters, or I'm going to say aspiring podcasters, who are still on the fence and haven't gotten onto the mic yet?
The essence of a winner is action. Action. So it's easy to say, do it. But I'm going to share with you one thing since you asked. It's the most important word. Now, N-O-W. So people who say later, I'll do that later. Later is the first step to never.
I'm laughing because I think my daughter just accused me of, my 8-year-old just accused me of that the other day when I said, we'll talk about it later. And she said, that means never.
Out of the mouth of babes, 8 years old. So it's important in our lives, whatever age you're at. Learn that when you say later, be more exact and say, honey, mommy needs 10 minutes. Is that okay? When you do that and you get buy-in, because later is the first step to never. It happens when people forget and get busy. So let's look at the word now. Now stands for no other way. Do it now. You want to be a winner in life? Do it now. You can't fail. These are the words of Barry Shore. You cannot fail. You might sound like an idiot. Who cares? Do it now. Now look at the word now, N-O-W, no other way. When you do that, you now own it. Same letters as now, O-W-N, only with now. And once you do that, you own it, you're doing it, you've won. What is one? W-N, same letters as now, with only now. When the now mindset is there and you can say, oh, shift, you can't fail. It's impossible to fail. The only failure is quitting, not doing it, get behind the mic, babble, say whatever you want, listen to it and say, gee, I didn't do so well. Okay. Everybody knows who gives what they used to call a speech. I don't like the word speech so much, but deliver a talk. You give me 3 speeches at once. The speech you prepared, the speech you gave, and the speech you wish you had given.
That's right. That is so
what's the
true.
difference? You just keep doing it and you keep getting better. But I listened to my podcast from the first few months and I say, they were pretty good, except that I cringe a little bit. Oh, who cares?
Some of us don't go back and listen because of that.
Yeah, but something, I didn't have the mic I have now. I got it from Tracy and Tom. Thank you. It was a different kind of position. I used different intro, and thank God, I'm glad that you like how I do my preamble now. And that took time to evolve, but that's okay.
Well, that's what I can tell in it. It's like tactically, because I listen to so many different shows, I could tell that there's an experience and feedback loop that you've gone through on your own, where
Yes.
you're figuring out what's working for you. And too often that people don't listen. And I don't mean like they don't go back and listen to it. They don't listen to how they feel when they're doing it. And if it's not right, they're like, I'll just keep doing it because somebody told me this was the way, instead of saying, this doesn't feel right for me. Let me make it my own, as you were talking about before, because then you will have won.
So this is so important. Listen to Tracy. Listen carefully. Well, somebody told me this is the way. Okay. Somebody, if you want to use someone's way and when you begin, that's okay. But be searching for your way. Way is so important, but it's your way. So do it. You have some roadmap from somebody, fine. Do it that way for a little bit, but make sure that you feel that it's organic, it's authentic, and just be you. When you're you, you make the world a better place. You have more fun. F you, everybody. Capital N, capital N.
Joy, the journey of you.
Yes.
Barry Shore, I am so glad we had a chance to chat today. And I'm so glad we could make this live to the world well, because we get together off the chart.
Before we sign off, wonderful Tracy, I'm going to ask a favor. I want to do 2 things. I'd like to give you a hug in front of tens of thousands, not 100,000 of people, and give a blessing to everybody. Okay.
Oh, I would love that.
Here I'm going to go. HUG stands for heartfelt, unlimited giving. Heartfelt, unlimited giving. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, love that.
And our blessing from Tracy and Barry is go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference.
I don't feel like I should close that. I think he should just drop the mic right there because he left it in such a beautiful place. You can see why his podcast is just thriving. You can see why he has reached as many listeners as he has. And you can see why that is translating into getting him more speaking engagements, more inspirational talks, more of everything, more book sales. All of that is coming to Barry because look what he brings to every single interview, every single episode that he does. You can do this too. I know that you can get inspired by Barry. So make sure to check out his show. Make sure to come back here and listen to the more Binge Factor so that we can bring you guests just like Barry, so that you can get your show going and you can bring your message, your incredibly powerful and impactful message, just like Barry Shores, to the world. Thanks everyone for listening. I'll be back next time with another inspirational podcaster here on the Binge Factor.
You've been listening to the Binge Factor podcast. For more information on podcasting and videocasting success tips and tactics, please go to thebingefactor.com. And be sure to listen to our other show for podcasters called Feed Your Brand. If you'd like to be interviewed on this show, as well as featured in Tracy's column, please go to thebingefactor.com/guest and apply.